In 1870, I spoke to my husband, but he wasn't born yet. A mysterious device connected us across time, revealing secrets that changed my life forever. This is my story. I stood in my small, candlelit parlor in 1870, the air heavy with the scent of wax and wood smoke. My name is Eleanor, a seamstress in a quiet New England town. Life was simple, predictable, until I found it. A peculiar brass device, no larger than a pocket watch, hidden in my late father's study. Its surface was etched with strange symbols, glowing faintly under my touch. I had no inkling then that it would unravel the fabric of time itself. That night, I pressed its central button, more out of curiosity than intent. A hum filled the room, low and resonant, like a distant heartbeat. Then a voice, clear, warm, and impossibly familiar, spoke my name. "Eleanor," it said, "I've been waiting to hear you." My heart froze. I lived alone. The voice was male, gentle, but it came from nowhere. I clutched the device, my hands trembling. Who was this man, and how did he know me? The device pulsed, and I felt a pull, like a thread tugging at my soul. This was no ordinary night. The voice introduced himself as Thomas, speaking as if we'd known each other forever. He said he was my husband, but that was impossible. I was unmarried, with no suitor in sight. His words were calm, confident, describing a life we shared, a home we built. I laughed nervously, thinking it a trick, but his details were too precise. He knew my favorite lavender tea, the way I hummed while sewing. The device glowed brighter as he spoke, its symbols shifting like liquid. I asked where he was. He said, "It's 1920 where I am." My mind reeled. 1920 was 50 years away. How could I speak to a man not yet born? I pressed him for proof, and he described a locket I'd lost years ago, buried under the oak by the river. I hadn't told a soul about it. That night, I dug beneath the tree and found it, exactly as he said. My skepticism cracked, and fear mingled with wonder. Over weeks, I spoke to Thomas nightly, the device bridging our impossible gap. He described a world of automobiles and electric lights, so foreign to my horse-drawn carriages. His voice became my anchor, soothing my loneliness. I told him about my life, my mother's death, my father's obsession with odd inventions. Thomas listened, his responses laced with affection. He said we'd meet one day, though he couldn't explain how. The device, he claimed, was his creation, built in his time to find me. I asked why me, why now? He only said, "You're the key, Eleanor." Each conversation left me dizzy, torn between doubt and a growing attachment. I began sketching his words, filling journals with his stories. The device never faltered, its hum a constant in my quiet life. I was falling for a man who didn't yet exist. One night, Thomas sounded urgent, warning me about a fire in my town. He begged me to leave by dawn, saying he'd seen records of it in his time. I hesitated. How could I trust a voice from the future? But his fear was palpable, shaking me. The next morning, I packed a small bag and left for a neighboring village. That evening, smoke rose from my town. The fire consumed half the square. My home was spared, but many weren't. Thomas had saved me. I clutched the device, tears falling, and thanked him. His voice softened, saying he'd always protect me. I asked how he knew. He said he'd studied my era, piecing together my life from fragments. The weight of his words settled on me. I was being watched across time. Yet, instead of fear, I felt a strange comfort. Thomas was real, and he cared. Our talks grew deeper, more intimate, as months passed. I shared dreams I'd never voiced, fears of a spinster's life. Thomas spoke of his world, where women voted and machines flew. He described our future home, a cottage by a lake, with roses I'd plant. I laughed, imagining it, but part of me believed him. The device began to falter, its hum stuttering at times. Thomas said it was unstable. That time was resisting our connection. I panicked at the thought of losing him. He taught me to adjust the device's dials, aligning symbols to strengthen the signal. Each fix felt like a victory, binding us closer. I began to live for our talks, neglecting my sewing, my friends. My world was shrinking to the sound of his voice. Was I losing myself to a man I'd never meet? One evening, Thomas revealed a secret. The device wasn't just for communication. It could bend time, he said, but only once, and at great risk. He'd built it to reach me, to change something in my past. I pressed him. What needed changing? He hesitated, then spoke of a tragedy, something that would break me if it happened. His voice cracked, heavy with guilt. I begged for details, but he refused, saying too much could unravel everything. The device sparked as he spoke, burning my fingers. I dropped it, heart pounding, but picked it up again. Thomas was still there, apologizing, promising to guide me. I felt trapped in a game I didn't understand. Yet, his love felt real, anchoring me. I decided to trust him, whatever the cost. The device hummed again, steady but fragile. I began noticing changes in my world, small at first. A neighbor's name I didn't recall, a shop that vanished. Thomas said our talks were rippling through time, altering his future. I was terrified. What if I erased him? He reassured me, saying he'd always find me. But doubt gnawed at me. Was I tampering with fate? One night, the device showed me a vision, a fleeting glimpse of Thomas, tall, with kind eyes, standing by that lake. It felt like a memory, not a dream. I wept, longing to touch him. He said the vision was a sign we were close to aligning our times. I didn't understand, but I clung to his words. My journals overflowed with questions, theories about the device. I was no scientist, but I felt its power reshaping my reality. Each night, I held my breath, fearing the hum would stop. Thomas urged me to find a book in my father's study. One, he said, held clues to the device. I searched, uncovering a leather-bound journal filled with my father's cryptic notes. It spoke of time as a river, of machines to navigate its currents. My father had known about this device, or something like it. Had he spoken to someone, too? The journal mentioned a key, a person to stabilize the connection. Was that me? Thomas confirmed it, saying I was chosen, though he didn't know why. My head spun with questions, but his voice steadied me. I read the journal nightly, deciphering its code. Each discovery felt like a step toward Thomas. The device glowed brighter, as if approving my progress. I was no longer just Eleanor. I was part of something vast. The ripples grew stronger. My town felt unfamiliar, streets shifting subtly. Thomas said we were close to a breakthrough, but the device was weakening. He taught me a final adjustment, a dangerous one. If it failed, we'd lose each other forever. I hesitated, but his voice, so full of love, pushed me forward. That night, I turned the dials as he instructed, my hand shaking. The device screamed, a sound like breaking glass, and light poured from it. I saw Thomas again, clearer, standing in our cottage. He reached for me, and I swore I felt his hand. Then darkness. The device went silent. I called his name, but nothing came. My heart broke, thinking I'd lost him. Days passed with no hum, no voice. I was alone again. Grief consumed me, but I kept the device close, hoping it would wake. I pored over my father's journal, searching for answers. One passage spoke of a reset, a way to restart the device. It required a sacrifice, something precious. I thought of my locket, the one Thomas knew about. It held my mother's picture, my only keepsake of her. I buried it again, under the oak, whispering a prayer. That night, the device hummed faintly. Thomas's voice returned, weak but alive. "You did it," he said, awe in his tone. He said the sacrifice stabilized the connection, but only briefly. We had one chance left to meet. I vowed to find a way, no matter the cost. My life, once small, was now a race against time itself. Thomas and I planned carefully, knowing our time was short. He said the device could open a window, a fleeting moment where our times might touch. It would take all its power, and it might destroy itself. I asked what would happen to him if it failed. He was quiet, then said, "I'll find you, even if I have to be born again." His words chilled me, but I trusted him. I followed his instructions, adjusting the device's symbols to match a diagram in my father's journal. The air in my parlor grew thick, electric, like a storm was brewing. The device vibrated, its hum louder than ever. I saw flashes of light, glimpses of that lake, that cottage. Thomas's voice guided me, steady but urgent. "Focus, Eleanor," he said. "We're almost there." My heart pounded as I turned the final dial. The world blurred, and I felt weightless. A rush of wind filled the room, though the windows were shut. The device burned in my hands, but I held tight. Thomas's voice grew clearer, as if he stood beside me. "I see you," he whispered, and my breath caught. Through the light, I glimpsed him, real solid, reaching out. Our fingers brushed, and warmth flooded me. For a moment, time didn't exist, it was just us. But the device sparked violently, pulling me back. Thomas shouted my name, his voice fading. The light dimmed, and I was alone again, the device cold and silent. I collapsed, sobbing, clutching it to my chest. Had I failed him? The journal lay open beside me, its final page blank. I wrote in it, detailing that moment, our touch. It felt like a promise, not an end. I refused to give up. Days later, the device hummed again, faint but alive. Thomas's voice was distant, like a whisper through a storm. He said the window had worked, but only for a second. We'd touched across time, proof it was possible. He was weaker now, his time shifting, unstable. I begged him to tell me how to bring him here, to my 1870. He said it wasn't about bringing him to me. It was about me reaching him. The journal held the key, he insisted, a formula to stabilize the device permanently. I read until my eyes burned, deciphering my father's scrawl. It spoke of a conduit, a person to anchor the connection. I realized it was me, always me. My resolve hardened. I'd rewrite time for us. The device glowed faintly, as if agreeing. I worked tirelessly, barely sleeping, driven by Thomas's fading voice. The journal's formula was complex, requiring precise alignments of the device's symbols. Each attempt drained its power, and I feared it wouldn't last. Thomas guided me when he could, his voice cutting in and out. He spoke of our life, of children we'd have, to keep me going. I saw them in my dreams, laughing by that lake. One night, the device sparked again, showing me Thomas's world, 1920, vibrant, alive. I saw him, older now, waiting by the cottage. My heart ached to join him. I adjusted the dials, following the journal exactly. The hum grew steady, strong. "Now, Eleanor," Thomas said. I closed my eyes, trusting, and pressed the button. Light swallowed me whole. I woke by the lake, the air warm, unfamiliar. The device was gone, crumbled to dust in my hand. I wore my 1870 dress, but the world was different, louder, brighter. A man approached, tall, with kind eyes. It was Thomas, real alive. He smiled, saying, "You made it." I ran to him, tears falling, and we held each other. He was born in 1895, he said, and had waited for this moment. The cottage was real, the roses blooming as he described. I was in 1920, my time left behind. My journals, my parlor, my life, they were gone. But Thomas was here, and that was enough. He showed me his device, a twin to mine, now lifeless. We crossed time, but at a cost. I didn't care, I was home. Life in 1920 was a whirlwind, cars, radios, women in shorter dresses. Thomas taught me, patient and loving. We married quietly, the lake our witness. I struggled with the strangeness, but his hand in mine grounded me. He was a tinkerer, like my father, obsessed with time. He showed me his notes, echoing my father's journal. They'd both chased the same dream, to break time's barriers. I wondered if my father had known I'd succeed. I missed him, my town, but Thomas filled that void. We planted roses, built our life. Yet, I noticed small oddities, names I recalled differently, events that felt wrong. Had I changed more than I meant to? Thomas said it was normal, that time was settling. I chose to believe him. Years passed, and our love grew, but questions lingered. I found a box in Thomas's workshop, filled with sketches of the device. One drawing showed me, in 1870, holding it. He'd known me before I knew him, watching through time. It unsettled me, but his love was undeniable. Our children came, 2 girls, just as he'd promised. They laughed by the lake, their voices my joy. But the device's absence haunted me. Had it truly crumbled, or was it hidden? Thomas avoided my questions, changing the subject. One night, I found him staring at the lake, lost in thought. "Did we do right?" he asked. I didn't answer. I wasn't sure. Time felt fragile, like it could shift again. I held him, silencing my doubts. Our girls grew, and 1920 became my home, but I never forgot 1870. I wrote my story, hiding it in a new journal, fearing it sounded mad. Thomas read it, tears in his eyes, and said I was brave. He admitted he'd known the risks, that our crossing might unravel lives. But he'd chosen love, chosen me. I asked about the ripples, the changes I'd noticed. He said they were small, contained, but I saw worry in his eyes. One night, the lake reflected a strange light, like the device's glow. I froze, heart racing. Was time calling me back? Thomas held me, saying it was nothing, but I felt it, a pull, faint but real. I buried the journal, vowing to live in this moment. Yet, the past lingered, watching. As we aged, Thomas grew quieter. His tinkering stopped. He spoke less of time, more of us. I found peace in our routine, our roses, our girls' laughter. But dreams of 1870 haunted me, my parlor, the device's hum. One night, I woke to find Thomas gone. I found him by the lake, holding a new device, smaller, sleeker. He said it was a failsafe, a way to protect our life. Fear gripped me. Had he been planning this? He swore it was to keep us safe, not to change anything. I didn't believe him fully, but I stayed silent. We'd come too far to doubt now. The next day, he burned his notes, saying it was over. I wanted to believe time was done with us. In our final years, we sat by the lake, hands clasped, watching sunsets. Thomas said I'd given him everything, a life across time. I felt the same, but part of me wondered what I'd left behind. My journals were hidden, my story untold. Our girls knew nothing of 1870, only this world. One evening, Thomas gave me a locket, identical to the one I'd sacrificed. "It's always been yours," he said. I wept, feeling time loop around us. He passed soon after, peaceful, his hand in mine. I buried the locket by the lake, with a note for whoever found it. Time had bent for us, but at what cost? I lived on alone, watching the lake. It held our secrets, our love, our impossible life. After Thomas's death, I felt the weight of our choices. The lake seemed to watch me, its surface too still. I wrote more, filling journals, with every detail of 1870, of the device. I feared forgetting, or worse, that it hadn't happened. My girls noticed my distance, but I couldn't tell them. How could I explain a life before their father existed? One day, a young man came, asking about my father's work. He was a scholar, studying old inventions. I froze. His eyes were like Thomas's. I showed him nothing, guarding my secrets. But he left a card, promising to return. That night, the lake glowed again, faintly. I clutched my journal, heart racing. Was time stirring? I vowed to protect our story, no matter what. The scholar returned, persistent, asking about time experiments. I deflected, saying my father was eccentric, nothing more. But his questions were too precise, as if he knew. I hid my journals, fearing he'd find them. One night, I dreamed of the device, humming in my hands. I woke sweating, the lake glowing outside. I walked to it, half expecting Thomas's voice. Nothing came, but the air felt charged. The scholar's card lay on my table, his name unfamiliar yet haunting. I burned it, afraid of what he might uncover. My girls worried, saying I was paranoid. Maybe I was, but time had taught me caution. I buried another journal, deeper this time. The past was mine to guard. Years later, my eldest daughter found a journal, reading it in secret. She confronted me, eyes wide, asking if it was true. I told her it was a story, a fantasy. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. I saw Thomas in her stubbornness, her curiosity. I gave her the locket, saying it was a family heirloom. She wore it, unaware of its sacrifice. The lake stopped glowing, as if satisfied. I felt lighter, like time was letting go. But I kept writing, documenting every moment. If time shifted again, I'd be ready. My girls grew old. Their children played by the lake. I watched, wondering if they'd ever know. My story was theirs, too, even if hidden. I grew frail. My days spent by the lake. Journals piled around me. The world had changed again. Radios became televisions. Cars grew sleeker. I felt like a relic, tied to 1870 and 1920 both. One night, a girl came, claiming to be my granddaughter's friend. She asked about the locket, her eyes sharp. I lied, saying it was a trinket. But she spoke of time, of devices lost to history. My heart raced. She knew too much. I sent her away, clutching my journals. The lake glowed that night, brighter than ever. I wrote one final entry, sealing my story. Time was circling, I felt it. I hid the journals in the cottage, under the floorboards. They'd find them, or they wouldn't. My last day came quietly, the lake calm, the roses blooming. I sat where Thomas and I had sat, feeling him near. I saw our life, 1870, 1920, every moment we stole from time. The device had burned out, but it had given us this. I hoped my journals would survive, that someone would understand. The girl returned, kinder now, asking to sit with me. I let her, sensing she was part of this. I gave her a letter sealed, with instructions to open it later. It held my truth, my warning. As I closed my eyes, the lake shimmered, like it was saying goodbye. I felt Thomas's hand guiding me. Time didn't matter anymore. We'd won. The girl, Anna, opened my letter years later, as I'd asked. It told her everything. 1870, the device, Thomas. She was a descendant, though she didn't know it then. My journals were found, passed down, studied. Anna became a historian, chasing my story. She found traces of the device, fragments in old collections. She wrote about me, calling me a pioneer. The lake became a legend, a place where time bent. Anna never found another device, but she believed me. My story lived, rippling forward. She visited my grave, by the lake, and left a rose. I crossed time, changed it for love. Anna knew that, and it was enough. Centuries later, my journal surfaced again, in a world of machines I'd never imagined. Scholars debated them, some calling them fiction, others proof of time's fragility. The lake was gone, paved over, but my story endured. A scientist, inspired by my words, built a new device. It hummed, like mine, connecting her to another time. She spoke to someone, just as I had, her voice crossing years. My sacrifice, my locket, had started something bigger. Time wasn't a line, it was a web, and I'd woven a thread. The scientist wrote of me, thanking me. I'd never know her, but I felt her somehow. My love for Thomas had changed everything. The new device failed, as mine had, but it left echoes. People spoke of time travelers, of voices from nowhere. My name faded, but my story didn't. The scientist's work led to theories, then machines, then warnings. Time was dangerous, they learned, just as Thomas and I had. My journals were locked away, deemed too risky. But copies spread, whispered about. A cult formed, worshipping the lake, believing it held power. They were wrong, but I understood their awe. I'd felt it, holding the device, hearing Thomas. My life, once small, had sparked a mystery. I wondered if Thomas knew, wherever he was. Time kept our secret, but it also shared it. Far in the future, a child found my locket, buried where the lake once was. It was rusted, but the picture inside, my mother's, remained. The child, curious, dug deeper, finding a journal. My words reached her, across centuries. She read of 1870, of Thomas, of love that broke time. She didn't understand, but she felt it. She kept the locket, wearing it like my daughter had. My story lived in her, a spark of something impossible. The world had changed, but love hadn't. The child grew, telling others, and my name returned. Eleanor, the woman who spoke to her husband before he was born. I was a legend, a ghost in time. Now, I am nowhere and everywhere, my story a thread in time's tapestry. The device is gone, the lake forgotten, but my journals endure. People read them, wondering, doubting, believing. Some try to rebuild what Thomas made, chasing our love. Others warn against it, fearing the ripples. I don't know if I'd do it again, knowing the cost. But I'd never trade Thomas, our cottage, our girls. I spoke to him in 1870, when he wasn't born yet, and it changed everything. If you find my journals, read them. If you find a device, be careful. Time is fragile, but love isn't. I learned that, and so will you. My story isn't over, it's yours now. If you love this story, subscribe to our channel for more tales that twist time and touch the heart.